Although I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, this podcast is not therapy and should not be used as therapeutic intervention. Many of the products and practices mentioned are for educational and informational purposes only. Should you need support, please seek appropriate, qualified, and licensed professionals. Hey y'all, welcome to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, the podcast where we navigate the murky waters between what society expects and what it means to truly live, embrace the messiness, the beautiful chaos of life, and celebrating the rebellion in the process. Whether you're a recent graduate, a seasoned therapist, or someone just curious, there's something here for everyone. But before we dive in, make sure you join the Hot Mess Rebellion community where you can connect to other like-minded souls. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist and wellness educator with a very rebellious spirit. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's rebellion. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist. Today, we're talking about the hustle culture. Well, I just wanted to take a minute and put this one on the table because last week we came off of a really hot topic, about why we need to help our future therapists in this space. And today's topic kind of piggybacks off of that because the hustle culture is something that I think is permeating our workspace. It's in our social interactions. It's even part of our personal identity for some people. Now, I'm not talking about corporate America because we know in corporate America, it is there. It is doing its thing. And even for women, it's a huge thing in corporate America. And that's not what I'm referring to today. But the idea of what a hustle culture is affecting therapists, is affecting our body. It's impacting our energy. And this is something that has been bestowed upon us because it is connected to our productivity and our achievements, or what we think our achievements and success are. And really, hustle culture at its core just glorifies overwork, productivity, and the relentless pursuit of achievement and success at any cost, at any expense, especially at the expense of our own well-being and fulfillment. What happens is that when we get on this journey, a person may start to believe that the hustle, the grind, the achievement is the only way that we are worthy and that we can accomplish and do what we set out to do. But the idea is that we push ourselves too much beyond our own limits, that this is how we end up in the hospital. This is how we end up sick. This is how we end up with hormonal issues. This is how we end up with heart disease, diabetes, and everything else. Because the stress that comes with it is creating inflammation in our body. And then again, it's creating issues. So I like to put this out here today just because, yes, we have the demands. Our profession demands us to have this great emotional labor, to have empathy, to have deep engagement with our clients. But what does that come at? Because when we live in the space of hustle culture, it makes us navigate into what we call survival mode, or a state of survival mode, which is really just chronic stress, overwhelming pressure, and a consistent sense of urgency, uneasy, feeling overwhelmed, and really just struggling to keep up. So we're in this space where we just do, when we have to step back and look at how are we not regulating ourselves so that we can become more in a space of being. The thing is, when we're in this survival space, that it consistently makes us in some ways, not helps us, but makes us teeter on the edge of burnout. And then burnout leads to other things. So the demands that we have in this space, again, it's not just our personal life, it's our professional life, and it's everything that we pursue. Some of the things that kind of come up for how we think about this in our mental health, our wellness space, is like, you see therapists saying like, hey, I want to have a full caseload. Well, what does a full caseload look like to you? Because I think if I was seeing individual clients on a regular basis, I think 20, 25 is like crazy, insane amount of people to see and to people to work with. And I take that from the context of, you're not only working with the energy of yourself, your family, your own friends, your circle. That means that you're taking on the energy of 20 to 25 other people. And if everyone's energy is not happy and copacetic, then what do you do with that energy as a therapist? It gets absorbed in you. And then so now you in turn, you try to work harder. You try to do all these things and keep up with the pressure because society has said, or the community has said, you got to see 20 or 25 people. But in reality, if you are managing yourself, regulating yourself and your own energy, then it doesn't matter what other people are saying. You are going to run your practice, what works for you, what makes you happy, and what keeps you out of survival mode. The other thing that comes up is like the hustle culture impacts us in very different ways. Now, it may not be the same for all people or all therapists, but there's some level of impact. And I found it kind of interesting that there's a few ways that tend to come up the most. And so we'll talk about each one. So the first area is your physiological impact. So what happens is we are disrupting and we trigger a cascade of responses from our body. This includes our hormonal system. And what happens is when our stress levels go up, our cortisol levels naturally go up, which is our stress hormone, if you didn't know. But what happens is that if our stress hormone doesn't come down like it should once the stressful space or event is over, and we stay in this elevated state, this is why our frontal lobe and our brain goes offline for about 24 hours, because the cortisol and the adrenaline and everything that's dumped into your body has told your system to shut down. This is why we feel like we need to rest and take a nap and kind of like recoup or feel really, really tired. But when our stress level is up and our cortisol is up, what tends to happen is it contributes to all of your health issues because there's that inflammation. It's the heart disease, it's the diabetes, it's the fibroids, it's the PCOS, it's the PMDD, it's the endometriosis. It's all those things. And we have to keep in mind that our body naturally goes up and down with the stress that we have in our life. Again, we don't want to stay up. We want to be able to come back down. Another big area that comes up for in this space is our gut health. Now, we know that our gut and our brain has, the gut-brain connection. Our gut is our second brain. And this one kind of leads to irritable bowel in particular, or any digestive issues. So if you're having tummy troubles, this could be why. And so we want to manage. It's not about just like what we're eating or what we're doing with our physical health, but it's about like just the stress level that's happening. The chronic stress is creating the discomfort in our gastrointestinal tract. The other place that is affected is our mood and emotions. Now, everything that we do has some type of mood, emotion attached to it. And the hustle culture creates this roller coasters of highs and lows, like extreme highs and lows. It makes however we're feeling just heighten, makes it worse. Like if you're feeling anxious or depressed, it just makes it worse. Irritable, it doesn't matter. It just makes it worse. And so we struggle to cope with the demands that we have and the constant pressure to perform and to meet expectations. It just really takes a mental toll on us. It leads to just, again, exhaustion and burnout. Why does everything lead to exhaustion and burnout? That's a question we should answer one day. Another place is the physical manifestations that we start to have. So this is the fatigue and exhaustion that we start to experience. It's like despite our best efforts, rest, recuperating is just not in our vocabulary. It just doesn't work because we always feel tired and exhausted. And when we are drained and we have a lack of energy and we're struggling to find that, you might want to look at what is physically going on with our body. As we stay in the body, muscle tension and pain comes up. And this would be like, headaches, backaches, jaw clenching, just the tension you feel. And even though you try those like self-care, stress reduction kind of like techniques, it's just not getting better. And you just feel like you are feeling the fatigue and exhaustion here. You feel it in your body. Remember that our body keeps score of whatever's going on. And this is one that I kind of struggle with sometimes. Is sleep disturbances. Now, I know sleep disturbances could mean a lot of things, but in this space, it's creating insomnia or it's disrupting your sleep in some kind of way. This is like having racing thoughts because it's like you're trying to go to bed, but you're thinking about like all the things you could be doing or try to do. You have worries, you're stressed, and so like your brain is just like on. And we have this like inability to switch it off and then prevent us from getting the type of sleep that we need. And so again, it leaves us exhausted and depleted. And I struggle with the racing thoughts, or I struggle with like trying to keep the to-do list in my head. So if you actually come in my office, one thing that I do is try to keep all of my thoughts on paper. So you might find a zillion notebooks or sticky notes in my office, because that's my way of trying to stay out of my brain, try to stay out of my head, so that at night when I do my nighttime routine, that I can effectively tell my body it's time to go to bed and I can maybe sleep better. So, but there's other reasons why I have sleep problems. So, but yeah, let's work on that. The last one, or not the last one, there's a couple more. So the next one is like your feminine and masculine energy. Now, people talk about this one differently, and but we have to look at it in context. Like our right side of our brain has more feminine energy. Our left side brain has more masculine energy. And what happens is our feminine side is like our more fluffy, nurturing, receptive, intuitive space that we have, creative space, versus our masculine is more our action, logic, assertiveness. And so we have to have a healthy balance between the two energies in order to function as a person and to do well in our work. And so when the energy of either is more dominant, then we start to operate differently. And then we wonder why we're having issues. It's because the balance and the energy is off. The impact on hustle culture, just on the energy as well, is we have to think about, are we prioritizing the doing over the being? We are neglecting the intuitive piece of us. We are, not nurturing our feminine qualities within us that make us great therapists and the listeners that we are, or the helpers that we are. And so we have to make sure that we are not overemphasizing that masculine energy as we work through some of the issues that we encounter. The other thing that kind of comes up here is, we can feel imbalanced. We can feel disconnected from our emotional needs, our self-care practices. It's just a disconnection feeling, and then leading to us to feel maybe empty or dissatisfied. And again, burnout. Everything leads to burnout. And so it's not just managing the energy that we have, but it's also just managing ourselves and trying to balance all the things in ourselves to feel like we are not trying to achieve this hustle culture, because that's something we don't want to do. So what are some things that have been helpful for, say, me to kind of recover, rebalance from this idea of hustle culture? And this is something I gave up a long time ago just because it was way too much energy for me. And so the first place, as always, would be mindfulness and self-awareness. Like, you have to know that there's an issue in order to fix an issue or to work on an issue. You have to recognize your signs and then be able to honor your needs and then reclaim your life and your sense of agency in your life. That's the first and foremost place that you got to work on. Boundaries. We have problems with those. Clear boundaries help us kind of push off the demands of hustle culture, because when you have clear boundaries, they're not for everybody else. They're actually for yourself. But when you have clear boundaries, you are prioritizing your own self-care and your well-being. You're setting limits on your work. You're watching your caseload, and you're making sure you get your personal time in and your family time in. The boundaries is what keeps us on track to make sure that we don't fall prey to the hustle culture. We are going to cultivate our feminine energy. Again, this is our nurturing, intuitive space. And so if we are prioritizing our self-care, our creativity, getting activities that nourish our soul, connecting to nature, which is huge within itself. There should be a whole episode about just what does nature do for us. But these things help us rebalance our energy. They help us reconnect to our authentic selves, and it helps us with our emotional needs and making sure we're engaging and honoring the things that are important to us. So, nurture yourself. The last space that can kind of be helpful is finding your community. So if you didn't know that, even though we have this podcast, I have a community space. And these are the kind of things that I would like to talk about and like to be able to support people, have people bring questions in. And the community space it's just a mix. It's not anything that, it's something you have to do, but I want it to be an extension of the space you have with the podcast, because community is where we can get resources, share our experiences, get insight, and kind of navigate these challenges that we have with a group of people who are maybe dealing with similar things or who have in the past, and they may be able to help the newer person that is just coming into the space kind of navigate what's going on. But having a community becomes important just to your overall well-being. So I am going to put out this challenge to you. Challenge the hustle culture. Let's fuck the hustle culture, because it is overrated. It's not helping you really get to your goals. I realized that as I took a step back from trying to be and do all the things with my private practice and therapy space, I've been finding more solace in just that I'm in my own lane. I'm trying to stay in my own lane and doing what's good for me. And that feels good overall because I know that I'm helping people. I know that I'm helping therapists. I'm helping professionals. I know that. And I know that it may not always be reflected back to me in the ways that I think it should or could be reflected back. But I know that underneath that I am helping other people. And that only came when I decided to walk away from the hustle culture, to walk away from what is survival mode, learn to self-regulate much better than what I was doing, learn to balance my energies that I have. And it's been coming back twofold and sleeping better, feeling better, doing better, spiritually better, physically better. It's just getting better. Now, I'm not saying that life is perfect and the energy and the things that I feel are perfect, but at the same time, I see the improvement. So if we really start to embrace more of a holistic approach to our not just physical health, but our self-care, the essentials we need, it can help us really navigate this space. Navigate and honor who you are. Moving forward with intention, resiliency, and commitment to reclaim your agency for your overall well-being, we can defy the pressures of hustle culture, create a more sustainable and fulfilling professional practice in our life. I hope y'all found this one helpful today. So I'm going to say, fuck the hustle culture. The hustle culture got you keeping up with the Joneses, and the Joneses are broke. Until next time. Thanks for joining today's rebellion with me. Remember, it's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. It's all part of the journey. Until next time, stay rebellious, stay authentic, and keep embracing the beautiful messiness of life. Don't forget to join the Hot Mess Rebellion community where you can connect with other like-minded souls. And anything mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, you share with a friend, you leave a review, and you keep coming back for more. This podcast was brought to you by Healing Roots Wellness and Botanicals. For more information, please visit healingrootswab.com.